Hello, welcome back to the Press Spots, welcome back to the Woodsworth channel. Today, Luca and I are joined by Alfie Cain. So he's a former academy player in football and he's now got a show in Edinburgh that's coming in the summer called Dropped. Thanks for joining us, Alfie. How are you today?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
We'll get into sort of your show later on, but that's the first question that we ask every guest on the Press Box. What got you into football? What made you fall in love with the sport?
I don't know. Apparently, I just sort of started. My dad kicked me a ball one day, sort of at the age of 2, and then thought I had something in me, and then took me down to the local sports centre, which is called the Westway, which is sort of like the mecca of football in London. And then, yeah, I guess I just fell in love with it. There's many sort of millions of young lads around the world do, got a hold over me, and then, yeah, just quite early on, things became quite serious. So yeah.
So talk to us about when the prospect maybe then of like playing for an academy came about and what your feelings were about that time.
I didn't really have any clue about sort of academies. I didn't know what they were. I didn't know they existed. Chelsea, I was playing at a tournament in Boreham Wood. There's a team called Ferndown Lions, and they were like a team full of ringers, all these lads in the Arsenal development. I popped 5 past them, and these 2 Chelsea scouts sort of came behind a tree and just tapped my parents on the shoulder. And my dad told me when I got home that evening. My dad told me, and so then I went through sort of the development program for 2 years. Kids, there's thousands and thousands of they're looking for a squad of 16, and they ended up signing me as an 8-year-old. So, but I was there from sort of the age of 6, and then joined their under 9s as an 8-year-old.
That's such a young age, though. To start developing someone as a footballer. I feel like that's too young of an age to even.
Yeah, I think
serious in the first.
It's just sort of your life becomes. I think it's not normal. I didn't, you don't realise it at the time. Like, it's this amazing thing, and I was in this amazing place down at Cobham, Chelsea's training ground, sort of like being in space, whatever. But from the age of 8, suddenly you're under immense amounts of pressure.
Yeah.
Because even as an 8-year-old, all you're thinking about is sort of, at the time, sort of becoming.
Yeah. Shooting for the stars.
Yeah, the next Thierry Henry or whatever, Frank Lampard kind of thing.
We were speaking before of only like 1 in 100, if that, players actually make it. But straight away when you get into an academy, are you thinking as an 8-year-old, as you do, I've made it, or what's the journey that they set out for you?
I think it's sort of. I don't know. Me as an individual, I never thought that I'd made it.
That must be hard as like an 8-year-old in an academy.
Yeah. Look, I had some great times there, but sort of everything's done for you. You're getting 4 pairs of boots a season, unlimited kit. You're seeing all your favourite players. Like Sir John Terry, Didier Drogba, being you're in this incredible place, but you just live your life quite on edge because come the end of the season, it's either retain or release, and there's a few of you getting released at the end of the season.
Was that the same from the age of 8 every year?
Yeah, and as you get older, the pressure. As you get older, you become sort of more aware of
the severity of it.
The severity of it. So. I mean, I didn't even know what anxiety was. I was a very sort of suddenly, but as soon as I got to secondary school, I was very angry. And sort of if I had one bad, I had anger management at school, and really why I'm angry. I've got a great family. I've got siblings, I've got a great group of friends, but it's the pressure, man. You're under it, and it's turning you into a monster. So. Yeah, sorry, I went a bit off track.
That's okay. How do you think the club then handled that pressure as sort of young boys? Do you think they did that well, or?
No, they don't care.
No,
they don't care. It's just you got to go out there, play your best, and you got to win for them. I remember I'm at Chelsea. Games against like Arsenal, Tottenham. What runs thick through the first team comes right down to you, sort of as an 8-year-old. You've got to beat these. You've got to beat this mob. Do you know what I mean? And if you don't, you're not in trouble. But there's a nasty feeling in the dressing room after. And I don't feel like you should feel that as an 8-year-old.
Is that how you felt to your peers who you're playing football with, but you're against them?
Yeah. From 8 years old, man, it was like go in, put it on them, smash them, put them up in the air.
So how far through Chelsea did you get then?
I ended up They found I had a heart murmur, so they found, you go for a the massive clubs, you're under the microscope, you go for a medical every summer, and at the age of 11, went in for the medical, and I was having trouble, sort of difficulty breathing. I kind of just thought it was asthma. And yeah, I had a subaortic stenosis, which meant there was a muscular ridge growing across one of the aorta valves in my heart. And so Chelsea sent me to Harley Street. They stopped me training, I couldn't train.
Wow.
Sent me to Harley Street. Doctor said I'd never be able to play again. But my dad had a fruit and veg store on Portobello Road, and one of his customers was called Professor Jane Somerville. She was the leader of the British Heart Foundation. She said, that's nonsense, hooked me up with an operation at Great Ormond Street. And my surgeon Victor Sang and Dr. Robert Yates, they saved my life basically. They saved my life, and I was they normalised me, and I was able to get back playing football again, to the highest level you could possibly play. So what the doctor at Harley Street said was complete farce.
So if that scan didn't happen then at Chelsea, do you know what could have happened to you then?
Yeah, you just basically just end up, if the muscular ridge gets all the way across, that I would have just had, my heart would have just exploded, basically. Wow. So I was getting a lack of oxygen. I would have died.
Wow.
Chelsea let me go after that, and then, which was tough to take. Yeah. And then, I went down to Barnet in League Two.
So did you still believe you could make it as a footballer at that point?
Yeah. I went down to Barnet in League Two with the idea of basically go to a lower league team and try and get into the first team at sort of 15, 16, which is what I did. Edgar Davids, do you remember Edgar Davids?
Yeah, everyone does.
He then became first team manager at Barnet, and I started dabbling within the first team at the age of 15. And again, ups and downs, but things were sort of looking bright. I had some big clubs looking at me whilst I was down at Barnet, but again, it's all political. Probably get into that another time if you've got other questions. But it's a long story.
So going into Barnet then, that's your sort of first experience of first team football, was it? How did you adapt to the physical change, maybe from playing with academy players, people your age, to playing with the first team?
You got to let the ball go quickly. 14, 15 at Barnet, I was able to sort of run through everyone, and then, but again, the pace increases. But as I at sort of 16, I had to get in the gym, and I did have to beef up a little bit. But I didn't, I wasn't looking past Barnet, but I didn't, I want to get. It wasn't the end goal, I wanted, and I didn't want to be playing League Two with, and that. It's so tough to get to League Two. You know what I mean? I didn't do it, but at the time, I didn't want to be playing against meatheads in League Two. The games come on a lot now, and it isn't just all sort of like meatheads, So I think that's quite offensive. But
we'll bleep it out.
But you just got to let the ball go quickly, and just let your feet do the talking. I was quite skillful as well, so they didn't want the first team players. They didn't want to be mugged off. They're coming and clatter you. So you just learn to adapt to it.
And at that age, were all your sort of health issues, were they behind you at that point?
Yeah, completely behind me. Yeah. My recovery was quick. Yeah, I had the surgery. They completely. It was a big problem, but it got dealt with. And so the big problem was, whatever. The surgery was like 4 hours long, and it was serious. Like, it was a serious surgery, it was life-threatening. But thankfully Chelsea found it. But I felt the way they dealt with it afterwards wasn't great. But looking back at it now, again, long story. They were never going to keep me on after that, But it is. I feel like, looking back, I was probably destined to do other things, which is like acting.
Can we show that picture at all? We've got a picture here that we've shown before, and it's
the 2 academy squads in Chelsea.
And there's very little players that made it. So I don't know if we can. Do you want to get that one, Luca, for me?
Yeah, sure.
So what is it? One player from here made it, was it? So this is
one from.
Yeah, Loftus-Cheek.
So do you want to just pop it on this one, Cam?
Yeah, so Loftus-Cheek's like where is that your left-hand finger there?
Yeah, this one.
So he's just he's just literally just
So
there.
from there, was there 3 or 4 players that made it?
Loftus-Cheek, and then, do you know what? My mate who I still talk to now, he's a legend, Jack Stevens, he's just there.
Centre-back, isn't he?
Goalkeeper,
Okay.
near, close.
Close enough.
Just can't use his hands.
We've got that 07-08 one here.
Oh yeah, and I think, there's a few more in
Trying to hold the
here.
other side, yeah.
I think you got like the likes of Mason Mount in here, and I think Declan Rice as well somewhere when he was at Chelsea.
They all had very dodgy Barnets back then.
Yeah. It was a bit, the mid noughties was not.
You've even got Brendan Rodgers as a coach in there as well.
Like, you know what? Like, you got Scott Sinclair.
That's a name.
You got Ryan Bertrand here.
I mean, Bertrand's Premier League.
Absolutely. Do you know what I mean? Very decorated player. Now, you've got a few decorated players here, do you know what I mean? But
this kind of shows the scale.
Yeah,
and
there's a massive, there's a mega financial operation going on at these big clubs, and they're pumping a lot of money into their academies, so they want to churn out a few players, but sort of apart from Chelsea, I mean, not even apart from Chelsea, I mean, it's hardly anyone, The statistics of making it, I mean, it's minuscule. Like it is, not to say don't go for it, but I feel like it's just the message. There just needs to be more information, there needs to be more awareness around what the chances are of you actually making it, and then the welfare within these what are they called? These places needs to be better. There's a massive lack of welfare.
Do you think the welfare has improved though since you left?
So.
Not
I
at
don't
all.
think so. I think suicide rates have increased within young football players, which is that's not a good sign. So whether
it's more the sort of the mindset of the people at the top of the club, isn't it? Really,
Yeah. I think go on.
No, go on.
No, I think the institutions. I think these institutions are still full of egotistical maniacs. Where it is, it's the toxic masculinity that goes on sort of within these clubs is vile, man.
Yeah.
Like it needs to change. They're not very safe places.
In terms of what?
I think in terms of for your mental health, man.
Yeah.
Your mental well-being.
That's such a big thing that's grown in like the past 10 years, but then you can still see that there's so many areas where we still have to do so much better.
Yeah. And look, I feel like we live in quite a snowflakey sort of generation, but there's a lot of similarities, I think, with football academies and the military. Sort of the way you're spoken to, and sort of what you have to put your body through. I mean, my back is mangled. I've done my ankle ligaments 3 times on my left, 3 times on my right. I'm 28 now. I do a lot of boxing, but my back, I just wake up, I'm doing quite a bit of yoga as well, but my back's just, and my ankles, I play a little bit, but I go over on my ankles a lot, to try and do as much strength work as possible, but it's just,
Yeah, I mean, George and I have never even played to A-team level at school, but so we can't even imagine what kind of physical kind of pain you've been through to get there.
So did you always have a sort of backup plan or a career plan as you went through this stage?
It wasn't a backup. I mean, look, as you know, I'm acting. Yeah. It wasn't a backup plan, but my dad was acting for a while when he was younger, sort of give it a crack for 15 years, and so he's always made sure that I did the productions at school, and I've grown up on a fruit and veg stall as well. You're a salesman,
Yeah.
It's all an act, Portobello, there was a massive show on Portobello Road, there's tourists everywhere, and there was one fruit stall next to my dad, then he was in the middle, another one, so you've got to be on top form, you've got to be able to pull them in.
Was there a big rivalry on that road?
Yeah, big rivalry, there's a few fisticuffs going on. No. And so I was doing like this local pantomime, which was called Notting Hill Panto, and then I think big props to my secondary school teacher, Natalie Moore. She was my drama teacher, and she just, she sort of scruffed me by the neck and made sure I did all the school productions, and I ended up getting spotted doing Shakespeare at school, doing The Tempest, and then doing West Side Story, and then this woman called Jessica Hines, after The Tempest, her son was at my school. I'm actually with the same agent now as her, which is sort of a nice full circle moment, independent talent. And she came up to me when I was 15 and was like, you have to go to National Youth Theatre. And that was sort of a big moment because it was like, oh, maybe, I didn't know what National Youth Theatre was even, but my dad and that, it was like, maybe I've got something. So it started to creep into my head that if football doesn't work, maybe I could try this lane, and sort of that's kind of what happened. Yeah.
So as you fell out of football and then into the acting, how did you find that transition from focusing on a career in football to acting?
It was tough. Sort of Barnet let me go when I was 18, and I was very lost. And I knew as well. So with my dad doing the acting, I knew how competitive acting was, and I didn't really want to. I mean, the odds of even sort of getting anywhere as an actor, sort of like God strike me down now. I don't know why I'm doing it, putting myself through it. Now I love it, but again, it's tough. But I felt like it was the only other thing that I was possibly half good at, And I like to express myself, and I'm able to sort of just whatever demons I'm facing, I'm able to sort of get that stuff off my chest, So. And I was getting the transition. I was getting into a lot of trouble. And I got into some big trouble. And my dad was just like, "Look, you just need to just flip and go to drama school or something, man." And so I went and auditioned for National Youth Theatre, which I'd been told to go to at 15. Yeah. And I got in, and then my drama teacher there was like, "Why don't you go and audition for a drama school called Lambda, where he was working?" I was like, all right, give it a crack, and I got in there, and that was the best drama school in the world at the time, and which was an amazing moment. That was a great, I felt like again, because the chances of getting in somewhere like that, is sort of like getting into Chelsea or whatever, and I felt like I really stuck my neck out on the line to get shot down, and I felt like if I hadn't got in here, like I might have crumbled a little bit, but thankfully I did get in there, and then I came out of there, and that's sort of they gave me the confidence to write the play. Dropped. Yeah.
Do you think that the competitive streak that you have as a sportsman kind of gets reflected into as you're trying to be an actor as well?
Yeah, 100%. I think though, it's just about, I know how tough it is, but actually, do you know what? That's how football's probably. That's what that football has helped me the most. Sort of. That's what I've taken from football. Yeah. You just. Acting is just audition after audition after audition. Once you've got your agent, which is freaking hard to get, But then they get you on a roll with the auditions, and it's you don't get anything. You've got to keep going. You got to keep going. But if you've got anything about you, like it's just you're not going to give up. Sort of. But and I know the game. Do you know what I mean? It's going to take a while. So that's why I sort of created my own piece as well, just get myself out there and just tell an important story.
Yeah. So talk to us about Drop then. When did you sort of get it in your mind that maybe your footballing story would make a good theatre show?
I think sort of quite drama school towards the end I knew I wanted to write something, and then the summer I came out, and then the summer that I came out of drama school, there was a Netflix series called Bad Sport. I don't know if you've seen it, but that was like a light bulb moment. I was like, well, this is it. I've got all this knowledge on the dark side of football and what actually goes on, and I feel like I've got so much that I want to get off my chest. So about sort of July, August 2022, I think. Yeah. And then performed it in 2023. When did I say 2022?
2022.
Yeah, performed it in 2023.
Okay.
Yeah. So
it all came about quite quickly.
Yeah, it all came about quite quickly. Yeah, I wrote it in like 3 days. Yeah,
wow.
It's not long.
How easy was it to write?
I just sat in my room and I just sort of like I'd heard that Sylvester Stallone had written Rocky in like 3 days. Not the finished article, but he just smashed it out. And I just I'm not the greatest writer, but. And I met up with my cousin who went to Cambridge University and studied English literature, and we workshopped it, with her and her husband, who's like a football fanatic, and we got it into really, really good shape. And then, and then I met up with Sean, my PR man, legend himself.
Your head in, Sean.
And we got together and we just. Sean just got the ball rolling, man. Just got the the Evening Standard involved, Talk Sport, BBC. News, and
the woodwork.
The woodwork. That's it, man. Just getting everyone on board, and we just ended up just smashing it out of the park, really, which was nice.
So it seems like there's a lot of bad experiences from your career in football that are in the show. Without spoiling too much, do you want to talk about what sort of themes appear in the show?
The darkest one is. I'll get to that. But it just talks, I think the statistics, the way that you're spoken to, the injuries like I've mentioned, and then so like sexual abuse, man. Towards the end it gets pretty dark, but it's what goes on, and I feel like this is, people need to know. These places need to be safer, and no one should sort of have to go through sort of what the likes of myself have been through, and other players. I know like 12 lads from a big Scottish side come forwards this week, in the news. So, people are starting. There has been players. There's been a few shows sort of made on it. And then they kind of sort of just, people forget about them. They kind of get brushed under the carpet. But it's a tough thing to talk about as well. Man, it messes your psyche up. It's going to stays with you for the rest of your life. But if I can save people, then I've turned a bad thing into a good thing.
I mean, if you can come forward and say something and bring at least one other person forward, then that's a win in itself, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but it gets heavy. Like the play does. Yeah, it gets heavy, man. It gets heavy. But I feel like the stage is the place to express it. Well, that's where I can express it best. And what I went through, the coach that didn't give me the best time. My way of dealing with it was I actually invited. I got it because he still. I don't know why I can't block his number. It's quite hard to sort of like, these people sometimes they get hold of you, and I don't message them back. I just ignore it. But I think, like I was saying off air earlier, one day I'd actually like to meet him and just chat to him and just ask him why, But at the time, I invited him to the play. I invited him to the show, and that was my way of just being like, I wanted him to see that scene. And that was, and it was a big. I felt like, the shackles were sort of off, for a long time. But then as I've got older, I've sort of discovered more stuff has come to the surface, and it's just. But I don't know. You get older, you grow wiser, and I exercise a lot. That helps, and just surround myself with good people. And just, But it's all good.
Obviously, we don't talk about what you feel comfortable talking about, but were you the only one that had those experiences you were aware of, or was it quite prevalent?
One of the clubs I was at, I don't know. There's one lad that was at a well-known championship side. Something very strange happened to him there. And that's actually not all I know. There's one. Sorry, so. There's a few lads. Yeah.
And it must have a severe mental sort of impact on you. Did you have to get to terms with what happened? How did you come to terms with it, with experiencing something like that?
I don't know really. I've had therapy and stuff. Sort of occasionally I have it. I feel like that helps. Like. I've been through some, I think like, there was at a time I didn't really know what depression was, and I couldn't get out of bed for like weeks, and I just felt like there was certain, there's been certain times throughout my 20s where I just felt like I've just got no life sort of left in me, and I can't put my finger on it, But gradually I've been able to, things are becoming clearer, which sort of might sound like, that's a bit scarier. But actually, the clearer it is, the more content I am, with my life, because you sort of. I feel like I'll never know the actual truth of sort of like what went on, but I'm still figuring it out. I think. Still figuring it out.
Do you feel like you'd want to find out? On
a
more
think
bigger
so.
scale?
Yeah, I think like it's always best to like the truth, man. The truth can hurt. But as time goes on, time's a healer, and you do learn to sort of just get on with it, man. And I use, I write, and I've used writing to help me get through some darkness. But I'm strong. Like football's made me. Do you know what football's made me? Like mentally, like, you know.
There must be so many parallels that you can draw between football and acting.
Yeah.
Because even if you watch the telly now, you watch a Premier League game. They're almost like actors, the way that they have to present themselves. On the
You
pitch.
see them diving around all the time. No, but yeah, you know, they are. You know, you go into that zone. You know, you become that sort of.
And especially now with the prevalence of media.
Yeah.
Everything in your life is magnified. You almost have to put on a different persona to the media than you do behind closed doors.
That is it. So, you know, especially. I mean. Like you just said, you kind of have to put on a mask like everywhere now. Everyone's so under the microscope. There's cameras everywhere, you know, social media, you know. I think you sort of, it's like a privilege when you get to just be yourself. You know?
I couldn't do anything worse than like an office job, and I'm sure you're the same.
I mean, even now, you say, I have to keep moving. I couldn't sit down.
I mean, we say this when we're both trying to get into media.
But how proud of you then are you of the show? Obviously, it's got a lot of touchy subjects, if you like. But how proud of you that you're going to be in Edinburgh performing at Hibs this year?
I'm super. You know, I guess I'm proud of myself. You know, it's just I'm just happy that it got a great reception and we were able to sort of keep the ball rolling with it. The play actually got picked up and we've been developing it into a TV series for the last 2.5 years now, and we've actually finished the development side of it now, and we've just handed it into a few. There's actually a little bit of activity around it, which is nice, you know. So the story, is all about just making sure that sort of that message can sort of travel as far as possible, really, and to be doing it up in Edinburgh Festival is just super fun, man. It's just like
and then it being at Hibs Stadium, that's kind of like a full circle.
Yeah, it's kind of a mad moment. Again, thanks to Sean. He's been unbelievable in terms of just making sure that it's something like I feel like it's being done in the right place. And I think it will just add something quite magical to it,
And just finally, I know it's quite a broad question, if you like, but your experience in football has made you who you are, but it's not maybe a positive experience. What do you think needs to change to stop things happening to you, happen to the next generation of young footballers?
I think there just needs to be, just like better people need to be employed, just better people need to be employed like within these institutions. I think it's still full of welfare checks and that, man. There needs to be like the footballers have so much time on their hands. Like when I was doing like my BTEC diploma in sports science, I don't want to be doing a BTEC diploma in sports science. I kind of would have, a lot of these lads, they all love music. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's like trying to create like a clothing brand or something now. Like give them an opportunity to create something. Whilst these, especially like these youth players are doing their scholarships. And like within, whilst they're doing the education process, like give them an opportunity to let them study what they want to study. And so then if it doesn't happen, actually there's something else on the side that they can possibly carry on with, and that also keeps you content, keeps you happy. I think my brother's trying to crack it as a footballer, and he's down at the moment, man. He doesn't want to talk to anyone. He wants to do it on his own. He thinks he knows everything. And I'm kind of like, why don't you just try and take it from me, man? Like,
there's no one else. Well, I was better to talk to about
it. Just find your job on the side. Try and find a job that you're just sort of happy doing. It's tough to get a job nowadays, but just sort of like grind your teeth a little bit and find something you're happy doing. And I promise you, like you'll be a lot happier. Even like with the acting, I felt like once I just took the pressure off myself, suddenly like a job came my way. And I was trying to sort of treat the acting how I treated football, but you can't do it like that. You just have to what will be, and when you get your opportunity, just give it 100%, and in your spare time, read your books, go to the theatre, you know, talk to people.
Yeah.
You know, like life is an act. You know, when I'm out and about, it sounds weird. You know what I mean? I watch people. I watch, you know, how people sort of manoeuvre, try and take their nuances. I'm working on a building site at the moment, working with this really interesting Northern Irish guy. You know what I mean? You never know what's going to come my way. You know, if I'm playing like a Northern Irish builder, you know,
you got the accent on lock now,
it's just you can withdraw. You know, you can withdraw from those experiences. You know, and just, you know, just really, just be grateful for what's in front of you, you know, and just take what you can from situations, because you never know what's going to come of them. You know, so.
Do you want to plug where we can watch the show?
Yeah. I'm doing it Easter Road, Hibernian FC, from the 2nd of August to the 10th of August, with the option to extend the run. Yeah, come down. Yeah, come up and see it. Yeah, come up to Edinburgh. Yeah, come up to Edinburgh. And yeah, you know, come and what's dropped. You know, it had a hell of a reception down here in London. So hopefully I can do the same thing.
Yeah.
Up there.
I'm sure you will, mate.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds fantastic. So if you're going to Edinburgh, please go watch.
Cheers,
watch
yeah, no, thanks
sure.
for having me as well.
Yeah.
It's been
Thank you
pleasure
for
to.
joining us. Really insightful and brilliant episode. I've enjoyed it so much. If everybody enjoyed the video, then please give it a like. Please subscribe to the Woodwork channel as well, and hit the notification button to be notified when we upload. We'll be back next week with another press box, but until then, goodbye.